I don't know if you saw, but there is some water rescues actually going on is it Chattanooga? Hearing of some water rescues in Chattanooga. That rain that hammered us overnight has been hammering Chattanooga now as it made its way into Chattanooga. And it's so bad that they're now having to execute some water rescues.
Yeah, the mayor of Hamilton County declared a state of emergency earlier this morning with 6 inches of rainfall over flooding some creek and water areas.
I mean, is it just me? And let's bring Brian Wilson up on this, too. Brian and Joan, did this rain, I mean, we did have some storms predicted, but, I mean, this just felt like it came out of nowhere.
You know, it felt like that. I watched the forecast last night, and, you know, they were saying rain possible, and there had been a few showers, but it may have just snuck up on everybody. But, I mean, 6 inches of water. Yeah, that's a lot of rain in a very short period of time.
Out in Hohenwald, it's really bad, too. 5 inches of rain reported there. In a very short period of time. So
And 40 westbound, we were talking about this when we signed on this morning. I was headed 40 westbound right around Hermitage, you know, where it always floods. Yeah. It was really, really bad. And I know that a lot of people this morning, as they listen to Nashville's Morning News, thank you, maybe an extra cup of coffee, because a lot of folks were woken up by the thunder, the lightning, and, you know, all of the stuff that went along with it, you know, pets that were going, you know, out of their mind like Bandit does at my house, Brian. And you've met Bandit. We all know Bandit's problems when it gets kind of crazy. And I know that a lot of pets do have problems with lightning and thunder. So just be careful. We do have a lot of traffic issues out there as well. So a lot of things going on, including, Brian, it sounds like, and you just heard Joan talk about those fleeing Texas Democrats are headed back to the Lone Star State.
Well, it was, you know, how long are you gonna play that game? And, you know, listen, I have a feeling that they've been running some poll numbers and they got some bad news. Because all of a sudden there seems to be a real change in opinion that this is not going over real well in the state of Texas. So I think they're coming back. The Texas Senate passed that redistricting map. Last night, I think it was, or yesterday, and by doing that again ups the pressure. So I think they're coming back. And I've read or I've heard that that the state of Texas says you can't have your direct deposit for your pay. So,
okay.
So they got to come back to pick up their paychecks.
Well, so then all of this was basically for the Texas
and it always
Democrats.
is. I mean, they made it's a stunt, and they wanted to make the case, and I just don't think that it's going over real well for them. If it was, trust me, they would not be coming back.
No, you're absolutely right. You know what's interesting, Brian? I've got a couple of things here. We have CNN on in the studio. And so I feel like the Washington, D.C. Mayor, Muriel Bowser.
Right, Muriel Bowser.
I feel like she's all over the place. So I want to read you real quick a couple of quotes from her, according to CNN. She says that Washington, D.C. needs to protect their autonomy from this president. She also says the House needs to take back the Democrats need to take back the House of Representatives to stop this authoritarian regime. So you've got all of these quotes out there, and I've got some audio too, where she's bashing the president. But then on the other hand, she'll say things like, you know, additional law enforcement in Washington, D.C. may not be a bad thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always kind of liked Muriel Bowser. I mean, she's a Democrat, but you're always going to have a Democrat mayor in Washington, D.C. Democrats outnumber the Republicans 3-1 in the District of Columbia. So she's going to be, you know, she's going to be a Democrat. But I like her as far as that goes. You know, when Trump got elected, she went to Mar-a-Lago before he was sworn in and had a meeting with him. And I thought that was very interesting. So they have some relationship, but the real truth of the matter is that, you know, you've got Trump is on good standing here. He has the ability to do this and more, and she knows it. I mean,
Yeah.
they talk a good game about home rule, but it really is a federal city, and Congress still has the final say. There's a lot of things about this city that is different than any other city in America, and I think she knows that if she can't work alongside, apparently she had a very good meeting with Bondi, and so I think that's a real win. I mean, there's a lot of winning going on here. I think this is playing out well for Trump. The markets yesterday had a very good day, and the S&P and the Nasdaq are in record territory. Inflation came in as expected. It is still in check. It is not runaway inflation, which again brings more pressure to bear on them lowering the interest rates. They're bringing in $25 billion a month in tariff income. $25 billion a month we weren't
crazy.
getting before. Isn't that nuts?
That is nuts.
And here's a story that didn't get much coverage, and I only found it in a couple of places this morning. Mexico has sent back 26 cartel members.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have.
So, yeah, because they figure it's easy. Give them the 26 cartel members that we have rounded up rather than have them invade Mexico, because I think, they have to look at it and say, he might just do it. So,
Do you know that I don't think that's the first time either, Brian, within the Trump administration. I think this has happened before.
Right.
Where they sent some of these bad guys. And I love it. And, these cartel dealers, and I know that the cartel members, and I know that, I don't know if you and I spoke about it, but Trump wanting to use the military against those cartels in Mexico. I mean, let's be honest; those cartels are killing more Americans than ISIS or Al Qaeda.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And one of the things that they're doing is they've upped their intelligence targeting of the cartels. So they're getting more information. As Pete Hegseth said, I think yesterday, we're watching you, and they are. And that's good. That's good. By the way, on the crime thing, can I return to that in D.C.?
Yeah.
We talk about the crime rate in D.C., and I told you that the numbers are cooked and they're not reliable. And if you look at the top 10 cities in America where there is crime, a crime problem, these cooked, even with the cooked statistics, D.C. comes in at number 10. You know who's number 1?
Memphis.
You know who's number 8?
Who?
Nashville.
Nashville's number 8.
Yeah. And I'm not even sure those numbers are really accurate, but yeah. When you look, so a lot of question, well, will Trump, try to do this in other cities where they have crime as a problem?
Right.
And if you're going to tackle one, it's going to be Memphis. But, so I think there are some task force at work in Memphis right now, but they haven't done the same thing. It's a little different when you want to go into a Republican state and take over a Republican police department. But the Department of Justice could step in, and that is not uncommon. It has happened before, and certainly would have the authority to say, we don't like what's going on here, and we think you need some special federal monitors. I'm not big on the federal entering the state, but it is interesting that when you look at the top 10 crime cities in America, according to the story I read this morning, number 1 is Memphis, number 8 is Nashville, number 10 is Washington, D.C.
All right. I don't know, Brian. I'm having a hard time believing that. I don't know why. It's just, and I do realize Nashville has its dangerous parts, but I don't know. You've lived in both places. I've only visited Washington, D.C. Which do you think is safer? Do you think that Washington, D.C. is safer than Nashville? Brian, I have a soundbite that I want to play for you, but you lived in Nashville. You've lived in Washington, D.C.
Right.
Do you buy that Nashville is coming in more dangerous than Washington, D.C.
Well,
on that list?
I think it's true. What's true in both of those cases, in Washington, D.C. and in Nashville, is that, if you stay in certain areas, you're probably not going to get into too much trouble. But if you wander into other parts of the community, you can find yourself in trouble and real quick. Yeah. I always found that to be the case in D.C. The downtown area I always thought was pretty safe. Northwest was pretty safe, but there were parts of the town that if you turned the corner, ended up in the wrong part of town, you could find yourself in sort of a pretty violent area. And I think that's probably the case in Nashville to some degree as well. Look, I mean, none of these numbers, I don't believe any of these numbers. Right. But if you buy the numbers, then you have to look at that and say, there are other cities, and and believe me, if DC's number 10, there are 9 other cities in America that have worse crime than DC.
And again, if you buy the numbers, I want to get your take on this audio bite, Brian, that just absolutely baffles me. I don't know if you know who Simone Sanders is. She is a commentator for MSNBC.
Right.
And, she's kind of built like a linebacker kind of a thing. But anyway, this is what she said about police.
You don't think more police make streets safer?
No, Joe. I'm a black woman in America. I do not always think that more police make streets safer. When you walk down the streets of Georgetown, you don't see a police officer on every corner, but you don't feel unsafe. So what is it about talking about places like Southeast D.C., right? Ward 8, if you will, that people say, well, we need more officers to make us safe. I think we have to rethink what safety means in America.
What does that mean? We need to rethink what safety means in America.
Well, this is the whole idea that the Democrats keep pushing, that we need to defund the police and we need to do social engineering, and it's the same old nonsense that doesn't work. We know it doesn't work. And by the way, I read a statistic yesterday that the District of Columbia is down 800 officers.
No kidding.
But I always thought in D.C., every agency has its own police department. I mean, it's the darndest thing ever. There are more police in that town than you can shake a stick at, not at the district, at the district level, and not responsible for, regular patrol of the community. But the FBI has its own police, and the Department of Labor, I guess, has its own small little police department. The Supreme Court has its own. Capitol Hill has its own. So, there are a lot of police, but not a lot of them are not focused, of course, on community patrolling and trying to work in the community. They're very focused on protecting certain buildings and structures within Washington, D.C., but there's a lot of cops there. If you put them in charge of going out and actually fighting crime instead of just, protecting buildings, you would have a lot of police officers.
I want to play you an audio bite real quick. I know we're running late. Brian, I want to play you a soundbite, though. This goes back to something you were talking about with Donald Trump and the tariff revenue. This is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who is now actually revising his anticipated income or revenue from the tariffs. Listen to this.
Just on the tariff income, I've been saying $300 billion, but I think we're going to have to substantially revise that up. So well in excess, 1% of GDP. And then with the new investments, they're the sovereign investments that we talked about. But then in terms of the committed investment by private industry, we're well over $10 trillion.
Just $10 trillion. Holy
Good
mackerel.
Lord. That's amazing. And look, that will pay off as those structures start to be built, and the businesses come back, and you got to build factories, and then you got to fill the factories, and you got to hire people. Oh, it's going to pay off in big ways down the line. Now, it takes a little while to get all that started. And that's what we got to watch right now. Right now, I'm very pleased with what I see with regard to the economy. With the inflation numbers looking good, the job numbers were a little concerning, but again, I'm not sure you can trust those numbers. So,
and let's also not forget that AI is taking a lot of jobs.
It is, and that's something, and we are going to go through that transition no matter what.
Yeah. All right, Brian, thank you very much. Always great to have you on.
My pleasure. Thanks to the Wellness
program.
Institute for sponsoring my appearances here on Wednesday. We greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely, and have a great trip next week. I think we need to have a new jingle, Joan.
Yeah, why is that?
Joan was right. Joan was right. So you were talking about how, and we were just talking to Brian Wilson about this too, about how inflation was up just a teeny tiny little bit. And as you said, grocery prices fell flat and food fell flat. And, that was told on CNN. They had to have hated to
I'm
report
sure they
this.
did, yeah.
Here's the audio.
The key categories that we always look at: energy, food, and shelter. Energy fell by 1.1%. That was largely driven because of gas prices falling in the month of July by 2.2%. Look at that food. I mean, this is where people spend their money, right? Food every single day. Food flat, 0%, and actually down at the grocery store by 0.1%. And then shelter, we always usually see an increase because that is what people are paying on rent. And
yeah, so there you go. Yeah. I mean, food and groceries, flat, inflation barely up, and things are going good, despite the fact that all of these same knuckleheads on the left and on CNN have been telling us that the tariffs are going to kill our economy. So far, things are looking really, really good. Hey, you want to have some fun, Joan?
I always want to have fun, Dan.
So they're running around asking Pramila Jayapal.
Oh, yeah.
About inflation.
Mm-hmm.
And, because inflation, we're just talking about this. Inflation has not gone up and or just a little teeny tiny bit, but groceries are flat. By the way, good morning, Nashville's Morning News. So this is Pramila Jayapal. She's been asked by Fox News about the fact that inflation is right now just at 2.7%, and this is what she had to say.
It is ultimately going to lead to a reduction in overall inflation, but most importantly, to the budget that people have every single day. Inflation is like a theoretical word that economists use, but what families feel every day is the up or down of costs.
Oh, that's not probably going to help make anybody feel better.
People are actually laughing at her at Fox News. They were actually laughing at what she said. Inflation, Joan, is just a theoretical word.
It's a social construct. Yes. Yeah.
What's
Until
funny,
they want to bash the Republicans over the head with it.
Well, I guess then my question would be, what was her opinion when inflation was over 9% with Joe Biden?
Yeah.
I mean, did she have anything to say about that? I mean, honest to goodness, with these Democrats, it is just so easy. It is just so easy.
I think they learned the art of the word salad thing from Kamala, because when they're talking, I don't think they even believe what they're saying. It's crazy talk.
You know, that's a great point, Joan. And I know that I've said this at least 1,000 times. Do the Democrats believe the BS, the utter BS that they're spewing? Because clearly, like, for example, and I'm just going to throw out a couple of examples, but, you know, when they said the border was secure, when clearly the world could see that it was not, right? So it's like, do you hear yourself? Do you really believe that? And it's gaslighting, of course. And they're talking about, you know, with Pramila Jayapal there, where she's talking about how, you know, inflation is a theoretical word that the economists use. Okay, well then fine. Then explain how grocery prices have not gone up and they are flat, even though you numbskulls told us that, we'd be all broke by now and paying $75 for a loaf of bread. You know what I mean? It's just the examples are abundant.
But then they'll believe that the Baileys are a real couple.
They will believe that the Baileys are a real couple. You know, maybe, and that's a callback. We'll have to talk about callbacks later on. But we were playing audio from Chuck Schumer earlier where he has this theoretical couple that he likes to talk about often, where he acts like he knows these people and he's been talking about them for years, about what they like and they don't like. And John Oliver last night, stick around, because at 8:35, we're going to play this absolutely hysterical audio from John Oliver, where he's talking about this fictional couple that Chuck Schumer talks about, the Baileys, and what they like and what they don't like. And as I said previous, I think the reason why he does this is because he actually doesn't talk to his own constituents. He just likes to make up constituents. And so very, very, believe it or not, a very funny segment from one of the late night shows. What is he on, John Oliver? Do you know,
I think
Sam?
He's got like a spinoff of Jon Stewart's show, because he was a kind of a side host for Stewart and had
like
his
a
own little segment.
kind of a thing?
Yeah. Facetiously. Nothing serious.
Right. So anyway, yeah, we'll play that for Chris Hand and see if he has a response to that. All right, real quickly, because I've got 7:42 and I've still got stuff that I haven't done. We did have some fun. People are asking me if I know of the police chief there in Washington, D.C., who doesn't really understand what exactly is a chain of command. This is one of my favorite audio bites of the day.
Tell us what the chain of command is now.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? What does the chain of command mean? So obviously, and earlier we did a nice run around the room where Joan knew what the chain of command was. Sam knew, with all of that college education that he's getting, he knew what a chain of command was. I didn't spend a day in college. I know that it tells. You can tell, and it does show. I knew what a chain of command is, but apparently this Pamela Smith...
Tell us what the chain of command is now.
What does that mean?
She had no idea what the chain of command is. And Joan, you were talking about the visual where she didn't know what the chain of command is.
Right.
And so then the mayor, Muriel Bowser, comes running in to rescue her like, oh, dear God, no.
Yeah, I feel like she understood that the press was going to jump on that very moment.
Oh, and
so
they
she
did.
stepped right up to the microphone and took her place.
Well, and everybody's talking about how, her job before this one was a chief equity officer. And to be fair, because I do like to be fair and I like to give the entire story, this woman began her career as a patrol officer, a canine handler, a senior instructor at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. She was also assistant chief to the Homeland Security Bureau in April of 2023. She became the first black female chief of the Metro Police Department in November of 2023. That makes the story actually worse, that she has had all of this experience and she doesn't know what a chain of command is.
Tell us what the chain of command is now.
What does that mean?
Do you think that she'll have to go through some sort of like extra training now to explain what the chain of command is? And you know what the thing is? And to be perfectly honest, am I being unfair, Joan? Maybe she just misspoke.
Yeah, maybe she didn't understand the question. Maybe.
It seemed pretty clear to me what the question was.
Yeah.
How about you? What is a chain of command? Who's in charge? Who's second in charge? Who's third in charge? I mean, it really isn't that hard. By the way, the headline from the Daily Mail, D.C. mayor dramatically changes tune on National Guard takeover as she calls for residents to fight back against the authoritarian push of Donald Trump. The mayor of Washington, D.C. called Trump's federal takeover of the city an authoritarian push as National Guard troops flooded the Capitol. Mayor Muriel Bowser criticized the Trump administration's ambitious crime crackdown on Tuesday night while fielding questions from citizens during a digital town hall. Bowser was asked how faith groups could help support the community when she urged residents to protect the city. Well, somebody needs to protect the city, and it's not the residents that are going to be able to do it. You need the armed military.
Or you need the Batman.
That's exactly right. I did, by the way, tweet that out. Abby Phillip from CNN called Donald Trump Batman, and he is treating New York City as his Gotham. She also says, Muriel Bowser, get to the other side of this guy and make sure we elect a Democratic House so that we have a backstop to this authoritarian push. Bowser's latest comments were significantly more forceful than her previous cautious approach to Donald Trump's plans. I was talking about that with Brian earlier, where it's like, well, will the real Muriel Bowser stand up because she's
playing
got
both sides?
Yeah, she's got all kinds of different. I think it depends on who she's talking to be honest with you. She was on the Breakfast Club yesterday. I didn't know, Joan, did you know that Muriel Bowser, her last name, is the villain in Mario?
Oh, really?
Yep, I didn't know that. She's also the villain in New York.
Bowser steals or kidnaps Princess Peach in the Super Mario world.
Okay. Bowser was on with the Breakfast Club. She says this is all political. Listen to this.
In a lot of ways, D.C. is a proxy for American cities. And his administration has taken a very aggressive stance against American cities. He thinks that people in cities don't support him. He's very aware of the number of people that voted for him in D.C. And so he has taken an aggressive stance.
So it was an interesting statement when she said that D.C. is a proxy for American cities. Well, if that means crime-ridden, dirty, has terrible schools, and is run by Democrats, then yeah, you'd be right. Donald Trump, though, I think part of this, so many Americans are horrified by what they see going on in American cities. And see, that's the thing. You know, what's interesting, I think part of what is going on, Joan, is so many people see the horrific things on social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's one thing to, read, really dry stats, the crime is up 19% and armed robberies is up 12%, whatever. It's one thing to read it. It's another thing to see this unfold every single day on social media because it's all there. And so you got people that are filming all of this and posting it in real time. And so people are seeing that. People are witnessing that. And so when you have the Democrats, number one, what they try to do is they try to excuse it. Or if you say, well, what about all of this crime in these cities? Well, you're racist, right? I mean, they don't have any rational or reasonable answer to any of this. You've got roving gangs of kids carjacking, stealing stuff, drugs all over the place, homeless all over the place, needles all over the place. So you know what? Yeah, Donald Trump wants those streets cleaned up.
We reported last year the lowest level of violent crime in 30 years. So we're not taking our foot off the gas. We're continuing to work. But we think that this action kind of plays into his narrative about cities, about using force, about being tough on crime.
Yeah. Now, remember, that is complete and utter BS. As one local reporter in Washington, D.C. calls this claim that Washington, D.C. has lower crime than it did, he calls it preposterous.
NPD of allegedly cooking the books to make crime statistics appear more favorable.
But the department is reporting that in 2024, crime went down 35%, violent crime, and then again another 25% through August of this year. That is preposterous to suggest that cumulatively we've seen 60+% drops in violent crime from where we were in 23.
Yeah. So, and we talked about this yesterday. They're cooking the books. Crime is not down. The media is lying, trying to cover this whole thing up. In Washington, D.C., crime is 29% higher than other cities its size. I gave you that stat yesterday. Same with violent crime, by the way. So now that their lie has been exposed, guess what they do? I know that you know what they do. They pull out the race card.
He wants to send the message to cities that if he can get away with this in Los Angeles, if he can get away with this in D.C., he can get away with it in New York or Baltimore or Chicago or any other place where millions of people live, work, and are doing everything the right way.
So last year, Baltimore was the fourth dangerous city. Brian Wilson was on earlier, told us Memphis is the most dangerous city in America. Washington, D.C., despite what they said, crime is incredibly high, 29% higher, again, than other cities its size. L.A. has a crime rate that is almost 30% higher than the national average. This is per 100,000 people. So this isn't an instance where, oh, well, L.A. is higher because they have more people. No. This is per 100,000 people, per capita. And, I mean, you can go on and on with all of these liberal cities. And so despite all of that statistical evidence, the Breakfast Club broke this out. This is a hot take if I've ever heard one.
Every city you just named has a black mayor.
That's correct.
Well, I think that he attacks cities with large urban populations, and most of them have black mayors. And so, yeah, I won't comment on whatever the racial component is. I'm sure there's something to that. But I know where there are large urban populations, major American cities have Black leadership.
All right, so you can deny the statistics all you want. You can call it racism all you want. But remember, when people have no answer as to what is going on, they just pull out the racism card. Online, in debates, on the streets. Here's the bigger issue that the Democrats have. The Democrats have a reality problem. The reality is that crime in their cities is going up. They side with the criminals. They hurt those that are law-abiding citizens. The fact that they all have Black mayors or Black police chiefs, I don't care about that. I don't care about skin color. I care about statistics. I care about results. I care about what is going on. And so if you have the Democrats, as they try to hide behind calling it racism and saying that Donald Trump is simply attacking cities with Black mayors and Black police chiefs, he's actually not. He is attacking crime. And by the way, I could just as easily call them racist. Follow me here. Because by endorsing the soft on crime policies, the mostly Black Americans who live in these criminal-laden hellholes, they live in danger and fear. So these so-called leaders are not helping those Black citizens. Maybe it's because they're racist. I don't know. But it is this kind of moronic thinking that, by the way, to turn this to local, that leads the Metro Council to not overwhelmingly approve those LPRs, the license plate readers. If you missed Matt Murphy's outstanding monologue that he did yesterday on all of that, you should really check it out because it's true. It's true. Freddie O'Connell, the mayor, who purports that he is for the LPRs, but he's really not, or the Metro City Council, they are pro-criminal. Just like you have all of these other mayors and police chiefs and the Democrats who are also pro-criminal. And the only way that I can describe why it is that they are against LPRs here in Nashville is because they are pro-criminal. Why do you think that in my home of Mount Juliet, where they catch all of these morons, all of these idiots that are leaving Nashville and they come to Mount Juliet, they get picked up in Mount Juliet with the license plate readers and the cameras that we have in Wilson County. Why? Because we are not pro-crime. We are pro-resident.